How is everyone doing this evening? I'm going to be going through again Proverbs chapter 23, but tonight we'll be doing verses 8 through 14. Now the first verse is going to be the conclusion of Solomon comparing the digestion of food and comparing that to the digestion of conversation and then the reaction thereof. And then the rest of the verses, till we get to verse 14, is going to be Solomon persisting on laying the rule of law, truth, into your being versus taking in man-made opinion that's turned into law that is not truth. Now all this is based upon God. God-breathed, God-inspired words from God. And then Solomon reiterating them. And I will be reading from the King James Version. Verse 8, Proverbs 23. The morsel which thou hast eaten shall thou vomit up, and lose thy sweet words. The host at the table will not cease until some sort of damage and harm has been done to you, because they're arrogant and they're prideful. Remember, in the previous verses, we were talking about when an authority figure or supervisor or a boss wants to sit down with you, it's usually to use you for their gain. And there is no common ground in that conversation. It's all for their gain. And so if you're a child of God, you're going to, all the kind gestures that you spoke to try to break the ice, so to speak, it went through one ear and out the other with them. Verse 9, speak not into the ears of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of thy words. People, just by nature, have selective hearing, unless you're under self-control. When speaking truth, especially. Now you got to remember, Solomon is speaking to the Jews back then. And when he would speak truth to them, Solomon would experience a combative nature, a resistance to him. They were offended by reproval and exhortation of the truth. And I would venture to say he was probably handing them the Mosaic Law, telling them how his experiences were. Remember, in Ecclesiastes, all his ventures and experiences and wealth and lust and all that stuff. His experiences, and it was all just a waste. It was wind. It was just throwing all those five senses, just throwing them into the wind. So we go here to Matthew 7, verse 6. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. So basically your conversation and feeding them truth is they want to have none of it. They will have selective hearing with it. They'll probably change the subject on you in this day and time when you talk about it. I experience it, and I'm sure you guys do too. Verse 9, speak not in, verse 10. Remove not the old landmark, and enter not into the fields of the fatherless. You may grow up under Christian morals with godly parents. That doesn't guarantee that your children will. It takes effort to train them up in the way they should go. That's why it's important to bring your children up by the truth. Period. Not school books. School books good for common sense in the modern world, but the truth are the Holy Scriptures. And let's go here to Hebrews chapter 12, verses 6 through 9. Hebrews chapter 12, verses 6 through 9. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons? And America is coasting downhill from a godly ancestry. You've got people growing up in a godly Christian family, but they grow up and mature and have children, and they're not doing what they were taught by their parents. And as you can see, America on a toboggan slide to hell. Without this godly ancestry, it's gone away. You can see that from the time of the Reformation to now. Boy, it's really going downhill. Quick, 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 quick. For their Redeemer is mighty. He shall plead their cause with thee. Our God is the Father of the fatherless. He will plead his children's cause. Conviction of justice or the condemnation of it, if need be. Now let's go here to Exodus 6:6. Even back in the Old Testament, got to keep that law. It was mandatory to keep that law then, or there are consequences for it. We're in the age of grace. It's a little more lenient today. Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. So God's going to chastise his people, even today. In certain ways, a little bit different ways from then, but we all go through trials and tribulations, do we not? Verse 12, apply thine heart unto instruction, and thine ears to the words of knowledge. Right here, Solomon's leading parents to the law. Back then, he was speaking to the Jews. Remember, the Jewish parents, putting them to the law. We're in the New Testament era now. We still do abide by that law. And Solomon's saying to write it on your heart. And that God will plead his children's cause, and the doctrines of God and the promise of the Messiah, which was in the Old Testament. Jesus Christ was all over in the Old Testament. To lay it on your heart. Lay the law on your heart. Because what if Christ came, the Messiah came in their time? And to live in preparation for the return of the Messiah. And to get this law standard, concrete in their heart, so they can train their children up, and hopefully they can carry it on. Withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. He shall not die. Give a kid a whipping, it's not going to die. Believe me, they're not going to die. These two young ladies right here, they both received whippings up until the time they were 4. I think Mason received her last one when she was 5. Blake's in junior high school. Mason's in senior in high school now. 4 and 5 years old, the last time I ever whipped them. They're good, godly, God-fearing children right there. Let's go here to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. That's a requirement. That's required. And child discipline is God ordained. For correction, not with anger. It's for discipline. We're living for God's glory, correct? Well, let's live in God's glory to train our children up to be God-fearing, God-loving, and God-serving children. There's got to be a way to not just throw them to the world. You've got to discipline them, and you've got to start with spanking. And discipline in the same manner with love. A child will die eternally without a strapping. It'll die eternally. It'll go out here as a heathen in the world. No home training whatsoever. You got to instruct them. In verse 14, thou shalt beat him with the rod, and shalt deliver his soul from hell. Whipping saves from spiritual death. If you look at a young baby, when it's hungry at a year, 2 years old, look how that thing will pick up the eating utensils and throw them at you if it doesn't want to get what it wants right away. You got to start discipline right then and there. You got to train them up in the way they should go. And of course, hell and Sheol, that's the world of the dead for the spirits. And we'll go over here to Proverbs real quick one more time. Get out of the New Testament first. And we'll go to Proverbs. These pages are so daggone thin. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. He that does not use the rod on his son, he hates him. But he that loveth him chasteneth him. Gets that rod out. And when I say spanking a child saves them from spiritual death, that's a whole nother topic for another day. You're saving their soul by disciplining them and showing them the real truth, not the moral laws of society. If you did that, they would be transgender and possibly homosexual. See what I mean? Another topic for another day. But before I end, put your seatbelt on and hold your seat, because this isn't going to be popular with many. But it's popular today in the grocery store for somebody to call out a parent for smacking their kid on the leg for acting up and grabbing things off the shelves and not listening. For somebody to intervene like that with a parent, you're either liberal or you're an atheist. Because child discipline is a God-given command. And there's a lot I've been called out in the store. Of course, I just turn my head and I just ignore them. But they'll call you out. I can't believe you smacked that little girl like that. Come here and I'll give you a spanking too. But I never did say those things. I know this was rushed. I'm short on time. I'm trying to refrain from doing audio uploads. I'm trying to give y'all video lessons. But we'll go through 15 through Proverbs chapter 23, verses 15 through 21, 22 next time. Okay, you guys? Discipline your children. It's good for them. It's good for the soul. Till next time.